Welcome to the students of first PUC. This is session 5 of chapter 6, work energy and power. In this session we will be discussing about non-conservative forces, collisions. In collisions we will be discussing about elastic and inelastic collision. In inelastic collision we will be deriving the expression for the final velocity and loss in kinetic energy after collision. In elastic collisions we will be deriving expressions for the final velocity after collision, and then we will discuss about collision in 2 dimensions, then about power. Finally, we will be deriving the expression power is equal to the dot product of force and velocity. Let me begin. First, what do we mean by non-conservative force? A force F is said to be non-conservative if the work done by the force is dependent on the path length. You can also define non-conservative force as a force is non-conservative if the work done over a closed path is not 0. What are the examples for non-conservative force? The frictional force between 2 surfaces in contact is an example for non-conservative force. Similarly, viscous drag between liquid layers in flow is also an example for non-conservative force. This is about non-conservative force. Next, collisions. We have seen many of these examples in our life. For example, while we are playing the game of marbles, the collision between marbles. While we are playing the game of carom and billiards, the collision between the pawn and the striker in the game of carom. The collision between the balls in the game of the billiards. And collision between automobiles. The collision between the atoms. A neutron hitting an atom in a nuclear reactor. All these are examples of collision. Collisions between objects can be classified into 2 ways: elastic collision and inelastic collision. More rightly telling, perfectly elastic collision and perfectly inelastic collision. In a perfectly elastic collision, both the total linear momentum and the total kinetic energy of the system is conserved, which means the total momentum before collision and the total momentum after collision are both the same. Similarly, the total kinetic energy before collision and the total kinetic energy after collision are the same. Examples for this: generally we do not encounter perfectly elastic collisions, whereas the collision between the marbles, collision between the snooker balls, collision between atoms, these are some of the examples for elastic collisions. Next, inelastic collision. If we are to define inelastic collision, in inelastic collision the total momentum of the system is conserved, whereas the total kinetic energy of the system is not conserved, which means the total linear momentum of the system before collision is going to be equal to the total linear momentum of the system after collision. It is not the same in case of kinetic energy. There is loss of kinetic energy after collision. What are the examples here? As stated earlier, the collision between the automobiles is an inelastic collision. The collision between the meteors, collision between heavy stones, these are all the examples for inelastic collision. And what is a perfectly inelastic collision? In collision between 2 objects, the collision is perfectly inelastic if both stick together and move as one object after collision, then it is a perfectly inelastic collision. Example for this: a bullet hitting a wooden block and the bullet and the wooden block moving together is an example for perfectly inelastic collision. Today in this session, considering collision between 2 objects, and we will be considering one object at rest and another object in motion. For this condition, we will be deriving the final velocity after collision, both in case of elastic and inelastic collisions. We will begin with inelastic collision. As already stated, in an inelastic collision there is loss in kinetic energy. So now we will be considering collision between 2 objects and we will be deriving the expression for final velocity after collision and the loss in kinetic energy. Let me begin. We are supposed to derive the final velocity and loss in kinetic energy in case of a perfectly inelastic collision. And the collision here is considered collision along a straight line or in 1 dimension. So we have this derivation in our syllabus. What is this picture depicting here is mass m1 is in motion and mass m2 is at rest. So it comes and collides with m2. It is a perfectly inelastic collision. So after collision they both move as one particle. So m1 is attached to m2 and now they are moving with a velocity vf. Here v1i represents the initial velocity of mass m1. v2i represents the initial velocity of mass m2. As it is at rest, it is 0. And vf means the final velocity of both the masses together. The same is being mentioned here. So the initial considerations are being noted down. Consider two masses m1 and m2. Particle m1 is in motion with velocity v1i, which means initial velocity of 1, and m2 is at rest. Mass m1 collides with m2 and they both move as one with velocity vf after collision. Now let us start the derivation after noting down the initial considerations and the diagram. By law of conservation of momentum, total momentum before collision is equal to total momentum after collision. So therefore I can write m1 v1i is equal to, before collision there is momentum only to particle m1 whereas m2 is at rest. So the momentum of this particle is 0. So total momentum is m1 v1i. After collision, considering the system, the momentum is now m1 plus m2, the total mass, into vf. So we shall proceed further. Let me note down this as equation 1. From equation 1 I can write further the final velocity is going to be equal to m1 divided by m1 plus m2 into v1i. So equation 2 gives the final velocity of the system after collision. If I know the masses m1, m2 and the initial velocity of mass m1, then I can calculate the final velocity of the system after collision. Next, let us derive the expression for loss in kinetic energy. Before that, equation 2 gives the expression for final velocity for perfectly inelastic collision between two objects. Next, let us proceed. I will be continuing the same derivation. The total kinetic energy before collision is going to be half m1 v1i square, as the mass m2 is at rest. So the kinetic energy is possessed only by the mass m1 before collision. Then the total kinetic energy after collision is going to be half m1 plus m2 into the final velocity square. The loss in kinetic energy is given by the difference between them. Therefore, the loss in kinetic energy is given by delta k, which is going to be equal to initial kinetic energy, which is half m1 v1i square minus the final kinetic energy half m1 plus m2 into vf square. In case of the final velocity, we will now substitute equation 2 which we had got earlier. Then let us see what happens. So this is going to be equal to half m1 v1i square minus half m1 plus m2. In case of the final velocity square, I am going to substitute equation 2, which is m1 divided by m1 plus m2 into v1i whole square. On simplifying this, we are going to get, let us simplify this, applying square to the entire term in the bracket, it will become m1 square, and here it is m1 plus m2 square, m1 plus m2 square in the denominator and m1 plus m2 in the numerator. So you can take out one term, and finally we will get this as delta k is equal to half m1 v1i square minus half m1 square by m1 plus m2 into v1i square. In the two terms onto the right hand side, half m1 v1i square is common among these two. You can take out the common terms and we will get this as half m1 v1i square into 1 minus m1 by m1 plus m2 in the denominator. On further simplifying this, you are going to get it as half m1 V1I square into M2 divided by M1 plus M2. Finally, the change in kinetic energy is going to be half M1 into M2 divided by M1 plus M2 into V1I square. Equation 3 gives the expression for the loss in kinetic energy in a perfectly inelastic collision. If I know the mass m1, m2 and the initial velocity of mass m1, then I can calculate the loss in kinetic energy after collision. Let me conclude. Equation 3 gives the expression for loss in kinetic energy after collision. Now similarly, we will see what is the final velocity in case of a perfectly elastic collision between two objects. Even in that case, we will be considering one object at rest and another object in motion. So let us begin. Let us now consider the elastic collision between two objects. And here, one of the object is initially at rest and the another object is in motion. So mass m1 comes and hits m2 which is at rest. After collision, both of them have velocities and the velocity of m1 has changed, also the velocity of m2. So this initial consideration is being noted down here. Consider two masses m1 and m2. The mass m1 is in motion with velocity v1I, which means initial velocity of object 1, and the mass m2 is at rest. The mass m1 collides with mass m2 and their velocities after collision are v1f and v2f. Final velocity of mass m1 after collision, final velocity of mass m2 after collision. Now we will derive the expression for v1f and v2f. Let me begin. Both in elastic and inelastic collisions, the total momentum is conserved. Therefore, from law of conservation of momentum, we have total momentum before collision is equal to the total momentum after collision, which means m1 v1I is equal to m1 v1f plus m2 v2f. Let me take this as equation 1. Let me rearrange this for mass m2. I will get it as, so m2 is going to be equal to now m1 into v1I minus v1f divided by v2f. Let me take this as equation 2. I will be making use of this equation. In the definition of elastic collision, we know that even the kinetic energy is conserved in an elastic collision. Therefore, for an elastic collision, kinetic energy is conserved. I will therefore write the equation as half m1 v1I square is going to be equal to half m1 v1f square, which is total kinetic energy before collision, is equal to total kinetic energy after collision, half m2 v2 f square. Half are common in all the terms, so I can take them off, and I am going to get this as m1 v1I square is equal to m1 v1f square plus m2 v2f square. In case of m2, we will now substitute equation 2. Substituting equation 2 for m2, we get m1 v1I square is equal to m1 v1f square plus m1 into, we substitute this, v1I minus v1f whole divided by v2f into v2f square. v2f square in the numerator and v2f in the denominator. So I can take off one v2f in the denominator and I will get m1 v1I square is equal to m1 v1f square plus m1 into v1I minus v1f into v2f. Here I have taken off the square and v2f. Let me rearrange this. In the equation here, m1 is common term both in the right hand side as well as the left hand side. Therefore, I will get v1I square is equal to v1f square plus v1I minus V1F into V2F. Let me rearrange this further. I'll get this as V1I square. Take V1F to the right hand side, to the left hand side. I'll get it as V1F square is equal to V1I minus V1F into V2F. Using the formula of A square minus B square is equal to A plus B into A minus B, I can write this V1I square minus V1F square as V1I plus V1F into V1I minus V1F is equal to V1I minus V1F into V2F. So V1I minus V1F and V1I minus V1F, you can cancel them, and finally I get V2F is equal to V1I plus V1F. We take this as equation 3. I will use this equation 3 in equation 1 which we had earlier, and let us see what happens. I made use of equation 3 in the equation 1. So I get M1 V1I is equal to M1 V1F plus M2 into V1I plus V1F. Let me rearrange this again. So let us see what happens. M1 V1I is going to be equal to M1 V1F plus M2 V1I plus M2 V1F. Now let us take out the terms that are common to V1I and common to V1F. So what happens? You can rearrange this as M1 V1I, take this term on the other side, minus M2 V1I is equal to M1 V1F plus M2 V1F, and if I take the common term V1I, so it is going to be M1 minus M2 is equal to, take the common term V1F here, M1 plus M2. We are interested in finding the final velocity after collision. So we will rearrange this equation to get V1F, and we are going to get the equation as V1F is going to be equal to M1 minus M2 into V1I divided by M1 plus M2. We were supposed to find the final velocities of the masses M1 and M2 after collision. We have successfully found the velocity of mass M1. Now we are left with finding the velocity for mass M2 after collision. So let us continue. Before that, let me make a statement here. Equation 4 gives the expression for velocity of mass M1 after collision. So let us now find out what is V2F. We will make use of equation 4 in equation 3. Making use of equation 4 in equation 3, we get V2F is equal to V1I plus V1F. So this is V1I plus, in case of V1F, we will now substitute this M1 minus M2 divided by M1 plus M2 into V1I. Let us simplify this. On simplification, we will get M1 plus M2 plus M1 minus M2 whole divided by M1 plus M2 into V1I plus plus M2 and minus M2 will get cancelled, and M1 will get added up. So I will get 2 M1 by M1 plus M2 into V1I. We have now successfully found the final velocity of mass M2 as well. So this finishes the derivation of velocities of two objects after collision in case of an elastic collision. Let me conclude. Equation 5 gives the expression for final velocity of mass M2 after collision. What we had derived now was in case of collision in one dimension or along a straight line. You can also have similar derivations for collision in a plane or in two dimensions. We will look into those derivations. The earlier two derivations were in case of an head-on collision. where the collision was along a straight line. But generally, we may encounter collisions in 2 dimension or along a plane. So what will we have to do in those cases? Let us see. Now let us discuss about collision in 2 dimension. Here mass m1 is already in motion initially. So let me note down here as v1i, whereas initially mass m2 is at rest. So let us discuss the collision in 2 dimension. Mass m1 is in motion while mass m2 is at rest initially. After collision, they both fly off in 2 different directions. The same is being written here. The directions of mass m1 and m2 are making angles θ1 and θ2 along the x-axis. If we arise at problems of this kind, so what should we do? We will use the law of conservation of momentum, and the law of conservation of momentum is used in both the directions of x and y. We will resolve the component of the velocity into x component and y component. Similarly, the component of velocity of mass m2 along x axis and y axis. So let us see what we are going to do. So along the x axis, initially mass m1 had momentum whereas m2 did not have. So total momentum before collision is going to be m1 v1i, and this is now going to be equal to total momentum after collision. Take the component of momentum of mass m1 along x axis, we will get that as m1 v1f cos θ1 plus the component of momentum of mass m2 along x axis will now become m2 v2f cos θ2. So let us take this as equation 1. Similarly, we will consider law of conservation of momentum along x axis. So similarly, applying law of conservation of momentum along y axis, we get before collision the motion was only along x axis, there was no motion along y axis. So total momentum before collision is going to be 0. After collision, if you resolve the momentum component along y axis, we will get m1 v1f into sin θ1 plus the momentum component of mass m2 along y axis m2 v2f sin θ2, and let me take this as equation 2. We have got 2 sets of equations now. Further, if the collisions are elastic, perfect elastic, then we can also use the law of conservation of kinetic energy. In that case, we will get one more equation. Let us see what it is. For perfectly elastic collision, we have half m1 v1 I square is equal to half m1 v1 f square plus half m2 v2 f square. The term half, which is common in both the left hand side and right hand side, can be taken off. We will get m1 v1 I square is equal to m1 v1 f square plus m2 v2 f square, and this is equation. If at all we arise at a numerical problem of collision in 2 dimensions, and if the collision is elastic, we will be making use of these 3 equations to solve the numerical, provided there is sufficient data being given. This is everything about collisions. Now we will see what do we mean by power. In the chapter of work, energy and power, we have learnt about work and energy. We are finally left with the term power. How is power defined? Power is defined as the time rate of work done or energy spent by a body. Mathematically, power is represented by capital P, and this can be written as work done divided by the time taken. What about the SI unit? The SI unit for power is, in the equation, the SI unit for work is joule, and the SI unit for time is second, and it is in the denominator. So here it is going to be joule per second, and this has one more name, special name, and we call it as watt, represented by capital W. So the SI unit for power is joule per second or watt. We also have another unit for power which we use many times in our daily life, that is horsepower. So what is 1 HP? 1 horsepower is 746 watt. 1 HP is another unit of power and it is equivalent to 746 watt. We will finally derive the expression for power in terms of force and velocity. We will now look into what is average power. It is the ratio of the total work done by the total time taken. So I can write power as the total work done. I will take this as delta W as the work done and the time taken here as delta T. This is the expression for the average power. You can also define instantaneous power, which is the power as the limit of the time tends to 0. So let us see what it is. Instantaneous power is defined as the average power as the time tends to the limit 0. So let me note down. Instantaneous power is the average power as the limit of time tends to 0. Instantaneous power is going to be delta W by delta T as the limit delta T tends to 0. This further can be written as power is dW by dt. As delta T tends to 0, this becomes the derivative of work done, and the small work done dW can be written as F dot dx. Therefore, power is going to be equal to F dot dx by dt. Dx by dt is nothing but velocity. So power can be written as F dot v. So this gives the expression of instantaneous power in terms of the dot product of force and velocity. Power can be written as F dot v. That's all for this session. Thank you.